It was like someone put a pair of glasses on my brain. Is this how normal people function? It's a grieving process of the life that you could have had and all the people that never listened to you and thought that you were crazy. Society will tell you with ADHD that you are too much.
I need my SASS back.
Oh, you too. Well, if you're done with a hot mess and ready to cook up some hotness, Mama, I got you. Hey, I'm Deb, Mama at Sass and Smalls. You're listening to Sass and Small Talk. We're going to talk about all the things, the mess, the cleanups, chasing the kids while chasing the dream. Join us here as we continue to find perfection in the imperfection of family life, while keeping things as sassy as they've always been. Before the drool, meltdowns, and potty mishaps came into the picture, I'm always looking for a way to fight through the funk of mamahood and find my sass. And I know I'm not alone. So grab your poison, throw on your comfy, and let's talk. Darling,
I need my SASS back.
Hi, before we begin our next episode, I'd like to preface it with a disclaimer and a trigger warning. We will be discussing this amazing guest that I have in store for you. Very excited. You're in for a treat. However, we will be discussing the journey to getting her ADHD diagnosis as an adult, which means she will be discussing her mental health journey. And that includes sensitive topics such as depression and self-harm. And so if you're not in a place where you can listen to those topics, shut it down, come back when you are ready, because I promise you, if you have any struggles with ADHD, any curiosity about it, whether it's for yourself or your suspicion of it for yourself or for someone you love, this is definitely an episode for you. I really believe that. But trigger warning, got to put it out there. Hey, everyone. Excited to introduce to you my guest on today's episode, talking about a topic very near and dear to my heart. She is Claire Bowman, a very, very active, wonderful influencer on TikTok and IG. She has a loyal following, including myself, and fan base, including myself. She shares her experiences of motherhood and family. She's a mom of two beautiful kids, a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old, and a wonderful husband, Matt. She shares her weight loss journey, her marriage and partnership tips and tricks. I follow a lot of that. Wonderful stuff. My husband says thank you, by the way. Struggles and wins with mental health while balancing it all with a home-based and creative business. Using real talk, raw emotion, and humor, she's hilarious. Watch out. She's the host of Clarity. Let's just go. Clarity podcast. Very cute pun. Further sharing her personal experience of motherhood and womanhood, self-discovery, mental health, cycle breaking. That's a good one. And challenging stigmas. What attracted me most to Claire, this wonderful woman, her account is filled with just her vulnerability and her vulnerable approach to her recent diagnosis of ADHD and how things turned around for her with balancing all the things and beyond. After receiving this life-changing diagnosis, it was a very long journey to get here, and we'll be digging into that today. So enough with the introductions. Let's meet this fabulous mama in all her honest, raw, and hilarious glory. Friends, meet Claire Bowman. Hi,
Hello.
Claire.
That was like the nicest thing anyone's ever said about me.
Girl, it's just who you are. I should just say,
Just over here crying.
Y'all know Claire. She's awesome. You just have to follow her on IG. She's amazing. Oh, and TikTok
Thank you. Thank
Well,
you. I'm so
thanks
excited to be here.
I'm so happy you're here. Thanks for joining me and being willing to share your very personal part of your story. I'm honored. I have to tell everyone I met Claire online. Truth be told, this is the first time we're speaking to each other, but I've been following, some people call it stalking, but I've been following her account for the last little while, not even too long, Claire.
Wow.
But
Yeah,
I
just hooked instantly.
She just reeled me in with her adorableness. I mean, she's adorable. Look at the woman. She's adorable. Adorable. Look at that face. But mostly she's just relatable. I mean, every woman, every aspect of a woman, mama, whatever, can relate to Claire. So I am definitely one of those people. So I want to just start off by asking, who is Claire? Tell us about your family. Tell us about your journey on getting online and what propelled you to get online to share your story. Tell us a little bit about your platform and who Claire is.
Sure. Okay. There's a lot to unpack. As most ADHD people, we have like a million different facets of life that we have. So I'm 30 years old. I'm a mom. I live on the west coast of Canada in British Columbia. I've lived here my whole life, which is kind of unfortunate. I don't have like a fun background like you. I got married at like 25. I don't really have a background in anything. I always wanted to be like a music teacher. So I have a background in music, and that was about it.
Well, I have to say, let me just intervene here and just say, girlfriend can sing. She'll be just talking, and when she gets excited, she goes, yeah.
I do. Yeah. So people are like, where does that come from? So yeah, I used to be like a singer. So I'm like a very creative person.
Yes.
And my entire life, I've always struggled with mental health issues. And I never really understood why I was like so different and so weird. So obviously I was the theater kid, super weird, didn't have a lot of friends. And I felt alone my entire life. So when I found my husband, I was like, sweet, another weirdo, you know? And then I was struggling so hard. And then I saw a few people and they did something called like mom blogging or influencing. And I was like, I want to do this. Like, this is something I can do and I can help other moms with my own struggles. And at first I think I started with like 170 followers. I just opened up my regular account. And then it kind of grew from there. And I was really shocked to see that me being open about mental health and just like my daily struggles. Like I think I've posted 20 to 30 stories per day for like 3 years. So I just vlog, whatever, my entire day. And somehow that made other people feel less alone. And I just kind of went with that. And then eventually I opened TikTok and it's just been crazy. But I found so many friends and it's helped me feel so much less alone by opening up and sharing. And it's embarrassing. Like some days I'm like, I'm so depressed. I just like want to, drive away. But people hearing that, it's really important. And I didn't realize until I started blogging. And there's so many other people out there like me. And it's just kind of been life-changing. So that's what I do. And I do a little bit of like influencing and social media marketing on the side. And I own a mug business. And I just have like so many interests. But really like being honest and sharing my story through motherhood and now my ADHD diagnosis is really just what I love doing. And it's a huge passion for me. A lot of people see kind of social media as work, but for me, it's just something that has come kind of naturally to me and something I really love doing. Like it's not a struggle for me to like pop on and be like, look what I'm doing today. Cause it's just kind of what I do now. And it just, it brings me so much joy and it's brought me so much friendship. And people are like, you make me feel less alone. But I'm like, no, you make me feel less alone,
I love it.
So I don't know. It's just kind of who I am now, I guess. But
it's just so validating to be able to interact with the people. It's not performative or putting something out there for the sake of getting some sort of validation. It's more of an online journal, sharing your journey and having someone peek into your journal and saying, me too. Like the most powerful 2 words I know is me too. And I just discovered that as a mom. Yeah.
Yeah.
Girl.
I actually had a post about that.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did. That's really funny. I'll have to send it to you. But it was like me too. And that's what I've learned is that when I want to share something really personal, I think people are just going to think Claire's just dramatic or whatever. But the more I share, the more people actually that I help. And it's so important. And that was my kind of journey on Instagram or TikTok is to break down the stigmas of what Instagram vlogging or influencing mom blogging should look like, because we need to stop being fake. We need to stop portraying this image of perfection because it's really hurting mothers. And that's kind of my goal online. Yeah, it really is. And like my house is old and I don't have it all together. And, it's a mess most of the time. And I just want to bring that and show people like it's okay if your house isn't all white and if you look like a slob most days. Like, you're not a bad person for that, and we really need to stop portraying that online.
It's so funny. I was looking at my background. I'm like, now, if anyone even knew what's beyond this side and this side,
yeah,
it's a whole other world. It's just this facade. We feel like we have to do. I still have to do that. Like, I feel like I have to do that, and I don't. And that's why I love your account, Clara, because you do. I mean, you have a beautiful home. I mean, this girlfriend can clean. Holy cow. There's a satisfaction watching you clean.
Yeah, I love cleaning.
There's a satisfaction. If you love cleaning and you don't have ADHD, still follow Claire. There's just a love of cleaning that you have. And we'll talk about that too. I was very attracted to how real you were, and not just the raw portion, but the fact that, yes, she's a mom. She talks about the burdens of the weight of post baby, and then the mental health aspect of it. And then you took us on your journey of the loss of weight without the shame. Is just more of the joy of it and helping people kind of get more inspired. That's actually when I saw you. I knew you before I knew you before your ADHD diagnosis. What made me reach out to you was your ADHD diagnosis, just because it's something I can totally relate to, but definitely the weight loss too. We're always on this hunt to find our old selves and be the old size we were and be the old life we were. Just before this call, I was just telling Claire a little bit about my history and how I was from LA. And I'm going to be digging into that in another episode about how it was really hard to kind of grieve my old self, my old body, and now as a mom, I'm learning. It's a learning in progress. And I know this is for you too, Claire, that we just kind of embrace this new life and love it and enjoy and celebrate this new life without, we can honor our old lives, but that includes our body, and that includes our like mental health and all that. So I really appreciate that.
Okay. So, I'm a little bit like weird. So I have been like really like overweight my entire life. So I didn't ever have that like pre-body kind of thing. So, but I like really love to hear about it because my journey has been so much different. I've really been loving sharing about it because it's helped other people like such as yourself who have like, for me, I'm like the best shape in my life right now, which is crazy, like even pre-babies. But I love hearing other people that have different journeys because somehow through me sharing my journey of, always being overweight. And then finally at 30, I'm really starting to like become healthy. It's actually helping people that have had the postpartum body issues. And that's been really interesting for me as well.
100%. What really reeled me in, because I'm like, oh my gosh, she's at this point where you love your body. And I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. And like from here up, you say, oh, Deb, she's like, no, I've had 11 pregnancies. And they're all hiding under my clothes. And it's funny, a friend of mine has said, you carry a lot of your grief in your stomach area, especially since that reminds me of my grief, right? Of all my losses. And so my mental health is tied into it. So as soon as I see some changes in that, without the obsession of it, but changes in my body, then I start to let go of some of that grief too. So there's just a lot of that. And I really appreciate your take on that. But anyways, I wanted to move. I love talking to you about this, but I do want to talk about some other stuff here specifically because you just have so much to share on this. On my previous episode, I'm talking about my own experience of ADHD as a mom. And I wanted to bring you on the show because I love that your diagnosis came very recently and it followed a whole mental health journey. And so can you take us, if you're comfortable, whatever you're comfortable with sharing, can you take us through your mental health history that eventually brought you to this need to get assessed? I don't know if you decided to get assessed or someone decided for you, like if you ended up going for something else and then they were like, no, you have ADHD. What was your journey? How did it kind of start?
Oh God, it was wild. And I know people that have been following me for a long time are like, they're probably tired of hearing it all, but it's a lot. Essentially, when I was little, I always felt like there was something wrong with me. And I'm very sensitive and very shy. And I always feel like everyone hates me, which I know a lot of people with ADHD can relate to this. And looking back, there's so many red flags. But I always felt like I could never keep up with anybody. And I always felt like there was a flaw within me. So ever since I was very, very young, I had a lot of anxiety and a lot of depression, and that's very normal for people who are struggling with mental health and it's been undiagnosed forever. When I was a teenager, I think my late teens, I went to the doctor finally because I was just not functioning, and I was saying, I think I have depression. And because I don't know if let's talk a lot about masking, but because my mask is very positive and very happy and I'm like funny, the doctor was like, there's no way you have depression. Like you're laughing all the time and you're functioning. And like, okay. So, me thinking it's a doctor, I was like, okay. But he was like, I think you have anxiety. So I started antidepressants when I was like 18 or 19. And I was on those for a long time. I'd say easily up until after I had my first and second baby, so 26. So I was on those for about 10 years and I never really saw a change within me, although I did advocate for them a lot. Like there's no shame in taking medication. I figured it was something wrong with me and not the medication or the diagnosis or the doctor. But back then, there wasn't a lot of information about ADHD in girls, and often we're called like the lost girls. And we were kind of brushed over and told it was anxiety and depression when it wasn't. So after I had my daughter in 2016, I had something called postpartum psychosis, which they called the baby blues at first, but we actually found out it was postpartum psychosis, and in which like I didn't even know who I was anymore. And it was crazy. Unfortunately, that went away. That's not really part of this, but it's important to talk about because it can happen. So that went away within 2 weeks, thankfully. And then, so after my son was born, things just kept going down, down, down. And he's very high needs. So it kind of exacerbated the situation. And then we pull up to the pandemic. So as you were saying before in our little pre-interview, the pandemic really brought out what was going on within us. So I went to the doctor and I was like, there is something not okay. I don't know how far you want to go with this. I don't want to exist anymore.
Yeah, no, talk to me.
And I'm laughing, but it's not funny, but humor is my coping mechanism.
Yes.
But I got to the point where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like there's something wrong and no one's listening. And it was what 15 years at this point dealing with this. So I went to the doctor and he screened me and he was like, you have bipolar. And I'm like, I don't think I have bipolar. But I took the medication and it honestly made me so sick. And it was like mood stabilizers and all that good stuff. For people that have bipolar, it's great. For me, not great. I want to see a psychiatrist, but unfortunately in Canada, it's like an 11-month wait. So I was on the medication for 11 months and I was just getting worse and worse. And I finally saw a psychiatrist and he diagnosed me with OCD. Because I like to clean, everyone's like, okay, Claire, you have OCD, right? And then that medication never worked either. So he said I had OCD and persistent depressive disorder. So a lot of times ADHD actually comes out in anxiety and depression if it's not treated for so long. So those were the side effects I was having. And because I was telling him I feel anxious and I feel depressed, that's what he was seeing. And then after I wasn't getting better, I think it was in 2020, in October, I decided I'm going to wean from all of these medications because they were making me so sick. And it was against my doctor's orders, which I know is very controversial.
You advocated for yourself, girl, please.
Yeah.
Good for you. Good for you. Yeah.
But no, I knew that there was something wrong. Yeah. Like I'm very sensitive and like empathic. And I was like, there's something wrong here. So against all orders, and I didn't share it online, I went off of my medication and I was like shaking like a leaf for months, but I did it and I'm really proud. And I went without medication for a year. And instead I was using medical marijuana, which really helped. I know a lot of people with ADHD actually use marijuana in small doses, microdosing. And then of all places, I started on TikTok during the pandemic and I somehow got to ADHD talk. The ADHD TikTok. So, and then I was watching all of these people that had ADHD, specifically women. And I was like, I have all of these symptoms. And I was like, there's no way I'm not hyperactive. And the more I watched it, it was like the For You page was really just telling me and diagnosing me. And I felt like really offended because I was like, what the hell?
And you're creeping into my brain.
Right. I'm like, how do you know this? So after
gosh.
I realized 2 out of 3 of my siblings have ADHD, all of my cousins have ADHD. And I talked to them and I'm like, is this what's going on with me? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, damn. So I went to the doctor and I was like, he's going to think I'm nuts. He's going to think I'm nuts after all these diagnoses.
Oh my God.
So I went in and I was like, can you please screen me for ADHD? And it was like red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag. I did so many self-assessments and I like scored 100% on every single column.
Incredible.
And he was like, I'm so sorry you have ADHD. And I was like, like I have goosebumps actually just talking about it because it was like, how did no one see this for so long? Like I went to so many professionals and TikTok diagnosed me with ADHD. So here I am also making TikToks about ADHD, going on podcasts and, making reels and being like, if you are struggling like me, you probably have ADHD. So that has been my journey. And as soon as I took the medication, because it's a stimulant, you'll know as soon as you take it within 20 minutes. And I was like, it was like someone put a pair of glasses on my brain. And I was like, is this how normal people function? And it's honestly been really hard. You probably know it's a grieving process of the life that you could have had and all the people that never listened to you and thought that you were crazy. And that's my journey is a long ass journey. It's been 15 years, but I'm 30 and I'm finally happy and I'm not crazy. And now I get to advocate for other people and my children.
Changing lives. And we're going to talk about we're going to talk about your children in a second too. I want to bring that up, but if you're okay with it.
Yeah, of course.
You just brought tears to my eyes because it's true. It's like putting glasses on your brain. What a beautiful way to put it. The clarity that comes with finding out the truth is just mind-boggling. And I am so blown away that you kept fighting. That you didn't stop. You didn't stop. You could have said, well, I'm bipolar, anxiety, depression. This is who I am. This is how I feel. I'm going to keep going down that hole because my doctor said so. And this isn't a pitch against doctors or anything. Oh, please. Some of my best friends are doctors. I love them. But the problem is no one knows yourself more than yourself. And you just felt it in your bones since you were a child. And I think that's what's touching me is that you knew that there was something there that was different. And I'm relating to you because I always knew this about myself too.
Oh, you're going to make me cry. It's just so hard because, everyone's like, oh, I'm so different. And, it's something that a lot of people say and they're like, oh, you're just dramatic. But something was legitimately wrong. And I knew it since I was a child. Like I felt it. And it's just nice to know that like I wasn't stupid and I wasn't unintelligent and I wasn't lacking in social skills or like unable to keep a job because of who I am as a person. It's because I was struggling with something that no one would see. And that's amazing to finally, and it's amazing to finally be an adult and be like, this is who I am and this is why I am the way I am. And it's just amazing. And then to even if you're talking to someone to be able to be like, sometimes I lose my words and it's not because I'm not intelligent. It's because I had ADHD. It's changed everything in my life. Just to
100%
know why I am the way I am and to know that I'm not flawed.
Or that you're all these labels like the chatty Kathy or you're, she's impulsive or she's flaky because she's always late or these are things I'm talking about myself, but I'm sure you can relate to some of them. Like I was always running late. I'm flaky. I'm forgetful. I had to read things 30 times. And I mean, not to toot my own horn. I said this in my other episode that Claire, stop making me cry. I just love this woman. Okay. So I've been called extra all my life and I embrace it. I am totally extra. I know you're extra. We're extra. It's all good. But to be called dramatic is kind of insulting. I do love drama. I did some music drama in my life too. But I mean, to be called dramatic is tough too. And not to toot my own horn, but I always felt that I had it in me to be intelligent. I did well in school. I actually was able to do well in school. And the reason why was because my friends happened to be such high achievers. And so I need to catch up. And we're going to talk a little bit more about RSD and how that helped me, and I'm sure has helped you understand a lot about yourself as well. But all this stuff, like we are daydreamers and we're inattentive and we're always lagging behind our friends and we're a little bit disorganized and all over the place and we can't focus. And all of that stuff, those labels really hurt you. And I think that's when you got years and years and years, and that, of course, depression will fall suit.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You think about all the women who go into like, I'm not good enough, so I'm just going to stop eating. So eating disorders. Then you've got on the other end, you have obesity, and then you have low self-esteem and like all this stuff.
Yeah.
And you can't manage yourself and like the finances. My husband's just like, what the? And when I got my, Amazon, hello. Or even, this day and age, it's all like, let's support small businesses. But I'm always just like, calculate, because I do tend to spend. And I think husbands and best friends and all this, they need to know this about us. It's good to have that support network, because if they can't accept who we are, they don't know who we are, then we can't be ourselves. We're just always going to feel less than.
Right.
Always.
And then when they do label you and they do say, oh, you're like chatty or impulsive or whatever. Yeah. It's just, it's not even like labeling. It's just invalidating. It's invalidating everything about you, because it's like, I am struggling with this. And they're saying, oh, well, you're just blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, like I'm actually struggling with this and you're completely invalidating my feelings. Yeah. And for that to happen for 30 years is devastating. And that's why we get depressed. That's why we have anxiety. And it's just, it's so frustrating. And it's so frustrating. And going through your diagnosis as an adult, there is a huge grieving process. That's huge, but it's so positive, but also it's like, I'm mad.
But like anything else, you do have to go through the grieving process to be able to get over that hump. I get it now. Grieving process as far as what your life could have been or what it could have turned out to be. But the beauty is you look at your husband, you look at your kids. I look at my husband, I look at my kids. And as bumpy of a road as it was, we were meant to be where we are right now. So I'm glad for that. But gosh.
I hate saying this. I could have been such a better mom.
I know you say that, but...
Yeah, I know. I'm a really good mom, but also like I could have had so much more patience and less scared of like going out in public and, and a better advocate for myself and my children if I had known, so big feelings.
Yeah, I agree. My personal experience of knowing my diagnosis and trialing, I'm in the middle of trialing the right medications. To be honest, I was anti-meds for myself, not for my children or anyone who needs it in my life that I love. But for myself, I was like, I can do this. I just need a little bit of talkie with some professional. I'm good. But then the pandemic hit and I'm losing my mind. My mind. And basically for me, my personal thing was I was just constantly overwhelmed. I was exhausted. I felt like you said, bad mom, inadequate, always. My self-esteem was super low. I was always stressed. I was always chaotic. House was a mess. Right. I couldn't get to the dishes, little tiny everyday tasks that everyone else can do. I couldn't do. And the worst part is I couldn't invite friends. I mean, of course we were in the pandemic, but even in our bubble, and my friends could vouch for this, I couldn't invite people to my house. I was so embarrassed. And it was just this constant guilt as a mom and as a friend, as a wife. It was time for me to look into respecting this as a medical thing, as opposed to just like, well, I can just wish this away, or I can just change my behavior and my thought process. Well, sometimes we're not doctors. Claire and I are not doctors. Disclaimer, we're not doctors. However, for our personal experience, there's no shame in medication. And I can finally say, I'm trialing doses, but I'm telling you, life-changing. 20 minutes, girlfriend, clean the house, clean mama's house. I did this, I did that. Texted all my friends. I responded to all. And I wasn't hyper. I was calm. And I was very patient with my kids. Yes, you can agree with that, right? Yeah. There's patience, right?
It's like all the overwhelm in your life. It's like gets taken away. I always feel like it's like my brain is a cluster of mess. Like there's so much going on up there. There's papers everywhere. When I take my medication, it's like I have file folders and I'm able to be like, oh, this goes here and this goes here. And like I have a mental list And it's like not like everything is like all at once. I'm able to do one task and then be like, okay, I'm going to do another task and I'm going to do another task. It's like someone just removed all of the mess in my brain. And yeah, it's still there, but it's less messy,
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's more tolerable.
Well, I feel like in the front of all those filing folders is a big to-do list in order, and we're actually prioritizing things correctly. People think with ADHD, you're just all chaos. What I believe we feel we can do it all a lot of times. So we overcommit, we say yes, we don't say no, and we do all the things, and then we come up short. That's where we feel shame and feel, we disappoint people, and that's where the flakiness comes in. Right. And so I love that can I share a story really quick? I was driving my daughter, and my old pre-medication self would probably go, I can do this, and this today and still make it to our appointment in half an hour. And this one time I was driving, I started getting kind of more used to my dose, and I'm driving and I had forgotten something at home, and my old self would have gone back to get it and do all the things and drop my daughter off, hoping I'd be on time. I'd speed, probably risk our lives, and then I'd be late 15 minutes. Okay, that would have been my regular self. But it clicked. I was just driving and I'm like, oh, I forgot the thing. That's okay. I'll do it tomorrow. Yeah. There's clarity. And then it just made sense. The prioritizing is so much clearer when you know what you have, you know what you're dealing with, like normal people, right? It's so wonderful. Glasses on the brain. I love that.
Right. And then like everyone that has ADHD usually is in a rush all the time, because something I learned was that people with ADHD, we only run or function on urgency. So it's like we have to do it now. And if we're not doing it now, then it's not going to be happening and we lose interest right away. And that can be on like sending an email or doing like a book report or anything. Like a lot of people with ADHD will stay up until, 10 minutes before the assignment is due and send it, just because we don't function any other way. It has to be now or never. And it's cool when you're on medication to be like, wow, I can actually like prepare for things. Or if I'm playing with my kids, if there's a sink full of dishes, I can be like, you know what, that can wait till later. When before I would be like, no, mommy can't play with you. Mommy has to clean. And that's how it kind of came across as OCD for a little bit. But it's really interesting how I can be more present because I'm not thinking of 9 million other things. Right. I can just be thinking like, oh, let's play Lego. And it's really interesting. Yeah.
So it improves relationships, and not just with our friends, ourselves, our husband, but with our kids, our kids. I want to ask you really quick. Okay. So you mentioned the light bulb came with TikTok, and I love that you mentioned that. And people joke about it, but honestly, most of my information is coming from TikTok. I'm not a huge TikToker, only because we'll talk about this offline. I don't know. I can't get people to follow me on TikTok at SASS and Smalls. No one follows me on TikTok because I don't know how to keep active on it, whatever the case. I like looking at videos on TikTok. I find that you as in we as in people, we just have to put like the keywords and boom, the For You page comes in. I love that. So when you said that, did you find that everyone and their dogs seem to have ADHD? There is talk of this ADHD epidemic. Okay. I'm just going to be a devil's advocate in there. There's going to be a lot of people that say, I have ADHD, I have ADHD, I have ADHD. Do you have an opinion? I kind of have an opinion on this, which is basically, I think it's because there's so many people who was misdiagnosed back in the day. Right. Well, what are your thoughts of why so many people are coming out of the woodwork saying I have ADHD, especially moms? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I love this. Okay. So, our entire lives, especially girls, because the only information we ever had on ADHD was that you are hyperactive, can't sit, and you fidget. That's all I knew about ADHD. And I'm a millennial. So we kind of knew, we had the internet, we were the dawn of information, and that's all I ever knew about ADHD. So a lot of people are now realizing the actual symptoms of ADHD, especially in women, and they're finally being diagnosed and finally being validated after 30, 40. I've met 70-year-olds that are finally being diagnosed because no one ever talked about it, especially mental health. People barely talk about anxiety or depression. So it's the information that's coming out and all the new studies that are coming out is allowing, especially TikTok, because it's a lot of people are getting addicted and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and they're able to see their symptoms in other people. Whereas before, all we would do is read. Well, it's on TikTok. You're able to see other people and their faces and
in
their
action.
actual experience. Yeah. And I think it was lack of information, and it was also not knowing how it presents in women. And I don't think that it's being overdiagnosed at all, because if those people were misdiagnosed with ADHD and they took the medication, they would be acting like they were on cocaine or on speed or meth. They would not be having these huge realizations of, wow, I feel functional for the first time in my life.
If that was
happening, yeah, it would not work at all. And that's how the medication functions. And I think that people that are saying that are not educated about ADHD, especially in women. And even my husband, we were looking into this, and I know you have questions about my kids and stuff later. But my husband was looking into this because he's been taking anxiety medication for 8 years. And he was saying, I have every single marker, but he is not hyperactive. He is very inattentive. So him and I are very similar, and that's probably why we get along so well. But together, we're a freaking mess together. But he's actually going to be screened later this month.
Oh, so good.
I hope he's okay with saying that. But yeah, it's the wide range of information out there. And for anyone that is saying it's being overdiagnosed and everyone has ADHD, it's like, no, not everyone has ADHD. Everyone was told that they were lazy and non-functional. Their entire lives. And finally at 30 years old, they're saying, this is what's wrong with me. And we should listen to them. Yeah, it's wild.
Okay, so this is a perfect segue. And again, if you're not comfortable sharing, absolutely
Go
just
ahead.
say, Deb, please. But if you want to tell me, if you're willing to talk about this, first off, I want to thank you for being such a lovely advocate for your children on behalf of all moms who kind of feel shame when it comes to neurodiversities in children. And, no one likes to admit that they think there's something up with their kid. And I'm actually opposite of you in the sense that my daughter's diagnosis, because I always knew there was something going on, and people question it and they're like, oh no, she's fine. She's fine. She's just a little shy. Okay. Shy is also another one, right? Shy. She's creative. She's an artist. I went and checked in, and it wasn't until she was kindergarten and we started seeing like the learning was also being affected by this, which I love that you're doing this well before the later years, right? When most people get their kids checked when they see like in grade 5, they're like, she's not reading it. What's going on? You're already doing the first steps of fighting for a diagnosis, right? And so I want to ask you, how is that going, advocating for, I believe, your son, or was it both your kids or...
It's actually both, which is wild, but it makes sense because
your husband and you, maybe.
Yeah. And if you say I have ADHD and I have 2 kids, the likelihood that they have ADHD is 50%. So if my husband and I both have ADHD, them having it is almost like, this is even what the pediatrician said. He said it's most likely that they both have it. And he was actually very happy that I was bringing it up, because most parents just ignore it. So for my son, my daughter is very easy. She's always been very easy. But as she's 5.5, she'll be 6 in July. So she's in kindergarten. And I was always like, okay, she's really creative, doesn't really listen well. Kids don't listen, So I got her report card back from school. And it was like red flag, red flag, red flag. And I'm like thinking to myself, oh, I am so sorry that I passed this on to you, because it was like really chatty, really spacey. She had a really amazing report card, empathetic and kind, and really loves her friends. But it's like inability to start tasks. I actually made a TikTok about this. Unable to focus, unable to remain on a task. And I know that she's only 5. But she has all the markers for ADHD in girls. So I wanted to bring it up when I was talking to the pediatrician about my son. And he said she has all the markers, but for girls, it usually comes out in middle school.
Middle school, yeah.
That they are having troubles with schooling. And if that is the case, just bring her in again and we'll totally get her diagnosed. And because I don't want it, what happened to me to happen to her, especially as a girl, they slip through the cracks. And that's exactly what he said. They slipped through the cracks. And almost like, the Lost Girls, they
The
call them.
Lost Girls. Yeah.
Yeah. Because they're spacey and they're creative and they talk a lot. And I just don't want that to happen to her. So we're on very high watch with her. So
Awesome.
if it does start to affect her schooling, they do diagnosis, I think 5.5 or 6. So if it becomes an issue with her, I don't have a problem, like they call it with labeling or whatever. I just want her to know why she is the way she is. So that's with her. With my son though, he's very, I hate talking like the negatives about my kids because I love them so much.
Oh, I know.
But he was very challenging ever since he was born. He was a month early, and I am not kidding, but he has screamed 24/7 and tantrumed ever since he was born. And it's been really, really hard. As I said, it kind of like exacerbated my mental health.
Yeah, no, totally.
Because I was like, I cannot function like there. And
too much stimulation, right? Too much stimulation.
Yeah, because I have ADHD and he most likely has ADHD. It's just kind of where like, butting heads all the time. And it's overstimulation. Yeah. So he has troubles like with speech and like with a lot of impulse controls and hitting. And he's just really miserable. And I just feel so bad for him. Anyway, so I was like, there is something not right here. And it's not even the hyperactivity that's the problem, but it's the inability, like he's just overwhelmed all the time. And everyone kept telling me, Claire, like he just needs to go outside. There's nothing wrong with him. He's a normal little boy. And I kept saying, no, there's something wrong. Normal little boys do not scream and have tantrums over absolutely everything all day, every day, because he's so overstimulated and so overwhelmed all the time. And there's something wrong here. And I always thought he might be autistic, which is funny because autism and ADHD, the comorbidities are insane. Like there are so many overlaps. Like I honestly 100%. Have a lot of markers for autism as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if he did. There's nothing wrong with autism. It's great. You just look at the world differently.
Yeah,
but
totally.
When I had my diagnosis about 2.5 months ago, I was like, this is what my son has. This is what he's been struggling with, because the rage that I feel, I don't know if you deal with the rage, rage that I feel inside when I am so overwhelmed is exactly what he has too. Yeah. So I looked it up and I looked up some, like, thankfully we have Google. I looked it up
thank God,
and,
Google.
And I filled out some questionnaires for him. Yeah. And he had every single thing. And he also had something called ODD, which is oppositional defiance disorder.
Yeah.
Yes. So many terms. Oh my God.
So many acronyms.
So I looked that up and I'm like, damn, he has every single one. And I know he's only 4.5, but I was like, this could be answers. And the reason why I wanted him to be not even diagnosed, but to be seen is because I don't know how to parent someone who has ADHD or ODD. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what to do to make him function normally, or not even normally, but like, how can I be the best mom for him? Because everything that I'm doing is clearly not working. And again, you go back to, I feel like I'm a horrible mom. Like, why was I given this child that I don't know how to parent? And I felt just completely left in the dark. And everyone around me was telling me there's nothing wrong with him. He's normal.
He's just a boy, right? He's just a boy.
Yeah, but they don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Like, they don't know, like last night, I was up with him for 3 hours while he was screaming and kicking the wall. And that's not normal. Like, to wake up in the middle of the night and have that. And people are like, it's night terrors. I'm like, no, it's not night terrors. He's not sleeping. More. Yeah, there's something off here. And it was the same way I felt about myself when I was a child. But it's harder when it's your own kid, because you don't know how they're feeling inside. You can only explain their actions. So I actually finally got, this is really exciting, I got to see a pediatrician this week, and he's too young to be diagnosed, but he has all the markers for, this is what the doctor said, ADHD and ODD. So although he can't be officially diagnosed, I got a huge list of resources that I'm able to look at with my husband. Yeah, this is like a huge mom win. Like, I've been talking about it, because it validated my feelings of, I am not crazy, and I'm not thinking that there's something wrong with my children when there's not, because I'm not like that. Like, I'm very thankful I don't have health anxiety, but I don't ever think like, oh, I have a brain tumor, or not that there's anything wrong with that, but like, that's just not how I function. So like, I want my kids to be neurotypical, and I don't want them to have to go through the struggles that I did. But if they're neurodiverse, then that's great, because I am too. So we can like, be together. Yeah, but it's been wild, and he gave us so many suggestions onto how to parent him. So now when I struggle with him, although it is a huge struggle, I know what I'm doing. And that is like the biggest thing you could ask for, is to have a toolbox that when you're like, I don't know what to do anymore, you can go into that toolbox and grab something and try it, and just to have like a plan. It's been so validating, even though it's not like an official diagnosis. It's been mind blowing as a parent. Like, and it's been, I think, 5 days, and it feels like another weight has been lifted off of me. Like, I know what it is now. And I don't know if this can be like related to other people that have health conditions, but it's just like, just knowing what it is and the treatment plan. Yeah. It's just been phenomenal. And I'm so thankful that we have an amazing pediatrician. And if he continues to struggle, I know it does get better when they hit kindergarten usually, which he goes in September. It's exciting. I'm going to have alone time finally.
You need some TikTok time.
Literally just like time to sleep, because he never sleeps. But yeah, so if it doesn't get better, at least I have this meeting with a pediatrician, and then I can go back and be like, you know what, maybe we should explore some therapy or some medication, because I was really against medication for kids. I always thought that it kind of made them like, are your parents baby boomers? Because mine were, and they always said like Ritalin just makes kids like drool at their desk. And they're like, but that's totally not
the case. No.
Right. I'm on the new version of Ritalin. It's called Concerta.
Yes.
But it does not do that at all. Like,
it's just so different now.
It just makes me so like functional. And so I would have no problem giving my children medication if they need it. And it's kind of exciting, because they could have that realization of, and that relief that I got at 30 years old, but they could have it at 6 and 7.
Brain. Yes.
So although it's been a really big struggle, I'm also so thankful that I have my experience, because I can now gift that to them in elementary school, that I had to wait until 30 with 2 kids in a pandemic. So it's exciting.
My head is bobbing so much, like it's going to fall off my neck, because I didn't share much with you on this. And I haven't actually shared with much of my followers, because it's kind of my daughter's story to share. She's at an age where she's ready to share her story. She's older. She's 10, but she's always had the struggles that, like I said, most people would just kind of go, she's fine. She's just creative, or she's just shy or whatever. But yeah, like you said, the 3-hour lay down beside a crying child who's overstimulated. I know that story. Oh, yes, I do. And the oversensitivity, the prone to addiction, to hyper focusing on something either like online, usually video games and stuff like that. She's quite addicted. We have to put a lot of limits because she's so addicted. There's so many things. And then I see myself, but like I said, my journey is like yours, but just opposite, where I got my daughter diagnosed and then I followed suit, because I was like doing hers and I'm like, oh, this looks like me. And then I went and got diagnosed, and can you believe I got met with laughter? Like, everyone who knows me laughed. No, in a good way, including myself, because they're like, of course you have ADHD. Oh my God. Like, not only did I have glasses on my brain, everyone else's glasses went on too. After they found out what Debbie has, they're like, oh my God, no wonder.
Right.
Oh, and that's, so I'm very grateful for my daughter to be able to, she's just so much more clear with her markers, because she doesn't have as much of a mask as you and I do.
They're younger.
But they're younger. So the fact that I was able to see all this, it's so mind-boggling when you get that diagnosis. No, we're not searching for the diagnosis. We're not trying to find what's wrong with our kids so that we could say, hey, I'm trendy. 2022, my kid has this, and this acronym. No, we're not trying to say that.
No.
We're just trying to get to the bottom of it so that we can get along with them, have a great relationship, give them the love and the parenting. By the way, I don't know if you're still doing this, but from what I've read and stalked in your account, you approach parenting with gentle parenting. Yes? Like
I try.
Yeah, me too. I try.
A lot of days I fail. A lot of days I yell, but I
too.
apologize. That's my thing about gentle parenting. I apologize. If I lose my bananas on my kids, I'm like, I am so sorry. And I was wrong. But yeah, I do yell. I think that's the thing with gentle parenting. People are like, no, you can't do that. You don't have any
sing-song everything.
Yeah, no. Well, I kind of do that anyways. But,
well, no, we sing.
Right. But like I do lose it a lot of the time. And then I apologize. And I say to myself, I cry at night and I'm like, I'm going to do better than my parents did. And, it's really hard, especially if you have a neurodiverse child or two. It's hard.
Oh my goodness.
It's so hard.
You're my soulmate. Everything you're saying, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I feel you so hard, Claire. And when you said it gets easier, hopefully in kindergarten, well, the truth is the signs come out clear in kindergarten just because you have that extra thing. But yes, the help. I mean, I know here in BC, they're making changes to support neurodiverse children who are not diagnosed. It's going to come this year. So he's going into a school year where the government is willing to say, look, you think mama? Like we're finally listening to moms. Please listen to moms. Everyone, please.
Thank God.
Listen to moms. Moms know
it's like
their
we
kids.
know.
We know. So
the
fact that they're going to listen to the moms, the families, say, hey, you're having struggles, Claire and the Bowman family and Deb and the Bellino family, you guys are, okay, we're here. This is what we're going to do. Here are the resources. I love that. I need your toolbox. I need you to throw that in another link to me. Mm-hmm. I need that toolbox because I am getting a lot of support, sure. But I like your pediatrician's approach in that they gave you a nice compilated here. Use this to refer to help you through it. And I can see the relief on your shoulders. I really love that. Yeah. Now, I just want to really talk really quick about, because the thing with ADHD, we just like to talk about, me and Claire can be talking until tonight. I'm sorry. The lights are going to go down. We're going to be like sexy talking later. This is not going to happen. I have to, out of respect for her time, her children and her mat, I'm going to speed this up a little bit. I'm just going to ask you to talk about RSD. Rejection sensitive dysphoria.
Oh God, no. Now I'm going to go to bed tonight being like, I didn't know what RSD was because I have it.
Please, we have to have like ODD. We have so many things on it, but don't worry. That's what I'm here for.
Okay, so my life has been plagued by RSD and everyone has told me, Claire, you are so sensitive. You take everything so personally. You need to toughen up. And I'm like, I can't help it. I cannot help it. And I'm very empathic. So I can feel like what other people, I know I'm a little bit woo-woo, but I can literally feel what other people are feeling and I pick it up. And just knowing that someone could be mad at me or not like me or that I hurt someone's feelings keeps me up at night for years. Like I cannot handle me ever affecting someone negatively. And that is a lot of rejection sensitive dysphoria. It's also the fact that like everything that I put out, like, I feel like everyone hates it all the time. So I am very,
critical, right? You're very self-critical
and and no self-confidence because of it. And I am getting better because obviously like what I'm doing is working and like, the numbers go up. But it is really hard because I literally take everything personally. And I don't think that's a bad thing. No. To be sensitive of other people's feelings, but it's really hard and it's hard to know who you are as a person because you are an extreme people pleaser your entire life. And it's kind of like at 30, I kind of finally realized, and I kind of realized like, Claire, it doesn't matter if people don't like you. You need to be who you are. And I don't know, like people that have been following me for like over a year can see like who I used to be last year in January and who I am now. I've really started to embrace myself and stop caring what other people think of me. But it's very hard because even if someone, looks at me the wrong way, I have a mental breakdown because I'm just so afraid of everything.
I love that you're being really vulnerable about this. Just for my listeners to understand what RSD, rejection sensitive dysphoria, means. No. Pretty much explain it, but just to say it, it's extreme emotional sensitivity to being criticized or rejected. And so, yes, people pleasing. And I have to say, I believe this is just me trying to, now I'm the woo-woo one here. I believe the RSD has been a good balance to my ADHD. Most people who have RSD typically have ADHD. I'm going to even say it right now. I think that is, I'm not saying everyone who has ADHD has RSD, but people who have RSD generally have ADHD. Apparently that's a fact. I'm not a doctor. Remember that. Disclaimer.
I think it is. It's like a symptom. I think it's a symptom of ADHD.
Symptom of
actually.
ADHD. Yes. So it's not actually a diagnosis or anything like that, but it's part of the symptoms. So yes, I feel the people pleasing was helping me mask what I had. So if I had the inability to complete a task because I wasn't motivated enough to do it, or I was scared, or I was just, or I was lying on the couch because I was so overstimulated I couldn't do it, so I just gave up. That's just typical ADHD day, right? So I let go, but then, oh my gosh, Susie's going to be so pissed because it wasn't done. My people pleasing kicks in and I'm like, gotta finish the task. So the RSD almost balances out the ADHD tendency to leave things to later because you don't want to disappoint. And so in a way it's good, in a way it's bad. I don't know. Do you think that in a way?
Yeah. And honestly, I think that's why a lot of people with ADHD overcommit and we actually never say no to anything. And that's why we get so overwhelmed and so overstimulated because we always say yes. And then at the end of the day, we're like, I overcommitted to way too much, but I can't say no because if this person doesn't like me, like I'm going to be I'm going to be a failure of my entire life. Yeah. So it's really hard. And to say no, especially to family or friends, and to put up like boundaries is a huge thing that's really difficult. It's a huge learning curve. I have to remember that the RSD isn't a negative, like as you said, like it can be helpful, and to be extremely sensitive is not a bad thing. No. In fact, I actually have made a few TikToks about this, but the fact that people would say that it's a bad thing is a huge red flag, and you don't need those kind of people in your life. If you say that hurt my feelings, someone should say, I'm sorry. And like, people need to be a little bit more sensitive to those that are sensitive. I've always been told it's a negative, but it's not. Like I pick up on so many things,
Oh, so no, you know what I like about that? People like our people with the whole RSD thing, we're probably more considerate because we're looking outside of our bodies and we're like, well, that's going to disappoint that person. I wouldn't want them to feel that way. Is that a bad thing? I think the only people who are hurting that is us. Because we're exhausted at 6 o'clock in the morning when we're still wrapping up that gift for that person because we want to make it perfect. We're the only ones suffering, right? So I don't know why anyone's saying it's a negative thing, but it's true. It's there's a superpower. So I wanted to lead to the next thing. Now you have a grip on your diagnosis, having ADHD. We've been talking a lot about some of our challenges and like life struggle and the markers and the red flags. Let's talk about the frickin' super freaking powers. Talk to me about what is Claire Bowman's superpower with ADHD.
Oh,
go.
I see. I feel like I have so many.
Yes.
Super creative. Yes. Like I have so many. And this is the great thing. Like one day I'll dress like I'm an old woman and the next day I'll dress like I'm a witch. And some people are like, that's weird. And I'm like, no, I have so many different aspects within me that I love. And I think that's so cool because I am unpredictable. Yes, I am fun and I am unpredictable. Another thing would be my sensitivity. I am able to connect with so many people. And I think that has been, I hate to say this, but the reason for my success in blogging and being an influencer or whatever you want to call it is because I'm able to connect with people. And I think that is actually because of my neurodiversity. And that's why I'm able to do it. And that's why not everyone can do it. No, it's the truth. I'm just so creative. Like I love to do everything. I love writing and I love music and cooking, cleaning, absolutely everything. And it's just, I love that when you have ADHD, this is something I'm learning, is that you don't have to just pick one thing. And society will tell you with ADHD that you are too much and you need to pick just one thing and you need to niche down. And I'm fighting back against that and saying, I don't need to niche down. I am not too much. I'm able to do everything and still be successful. And I love that about myself. So that is my superpower, is just doing absolutely everything and anything, and having 9 million jobs and being able to do all of them. So being too much, I guess, is my superpower.
I love it. And too much is not even the word. I think, everyone talks about, my husband just told me, everyone talks about that saying, the master of all is a master of none. People stop at that, but the actual real quote continues. But the master of all is still better than the master of one. Did you hear that? Did you know that's what it is?
I didn't know that.
The master of, right? The master of all is a master of none, but the master of all is still better than the master of one. What?
Wow.
That's the real term, but everyone takes it out.
Wow. And I feel like it's just it would be such a sad life to only pick one thing that I love. And I think for you too, like, there's so many different facets within us, and we should be able to explore all of them. You never know. Like, one day I'm piercing my ears and the next day I'm like growing an arrow garden. Like, you don't know. And I think like that's the most exciting thing about people that are neurodiverse, Like,
just not predictable. We're so unpredictable. I love it so much. It just brings so much color to the world. Does it not?
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think that anyone should ever have to just mute who they are. And this is a huge thing that I'm discovering about myself. I don't need to mute who I am because people think I'm weird. I don't care. Like, I do care because of the
embrace the weird.
I do care, but I just like, I'm a weirdo. Like, and weirdos aren't for everyone, So you just kind of have to be who you are. And that's really hard, especially because I am like 20 different things, but that's okay. Yeah.
I love it.
I was watching a TikTok about that. It was cool.
I love that you actually can reach more people because of the different angles you take. Like, one aspect of you likes to sing, the other aspect likes to be funny, the other aspect likes to be very vulnerable. There are times where you have tears, and then I have tears. Thanks, Claire. I'm like, hashtag thanks, Claire. I'm always crying when I'm watching some of your stuff, but I really do believe. Oh, it's great. No, I'm crying. But here's the thing is if you're able to interact in that way, then you are in the right role because you are widely influential in that way. So it's a blessing to have a person in the public eye to be able to say, I am with you. I'm with you as well. I'm with you too. Hey, I'm with you as well. And I think that's really a gift. Are we not in the best era? Other than the stupid pandemic, but to have ADHD in this world where we have so much at our fingertips, we can have a platform where we can overshare or whatever we do and have this Zoom call and have this conversation and have the piercings and all that stuff is so great for ADHD peeps, like for us to be able to be exactly who we are. Current day. How awesome is that? I do consider myself very lucky, and our kids are going to be even luckier because the resources will be just abundant.
I don't want to say I'm thankful for the pandemic, but I think that the pandemic brought out a lot of what we were masking, and it has helped ADHD diagnosis come out so much because people were able to be in their homes and create content and share. And that's why when people laugh at content creating, I'm like, dude, it's not to be like laughed at, and people look down upon content creating, but it can help so many people. And that's what like keeps me going when I'm struggling and I'm like, I don't know who I am and I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I go through those messages of people saying like, you saved my life and I got a diagnosis because of the content you created. No, but that's what makes it worth it. So it's like these platforms are so important, and it's not just about creating content. It's about connecting with people. And like you said, it's just like amazing. And while social media can be so terrible, it can also be so connecting, and it's like the best. Yeah,
I love that.
And it's also not
so much. And it's also not. I mean, it's tough. It's tough. You got to find that balance. I know for me, some platforms are better than others. Like I find that the news on Facebook is very painful for me. I have a hard time. But TikTok and Instagram, specifically Reels and Stories, I find very enlightening, very interactive, and I appreciate it. But let me ask you, because we're kind of talking, this is the last point, because again, we can be talking till we're blue in the face till tomorrow. I'd love to do that. Now, there's going to be a lot of women going, okay, me too, me too, me too, or I think I have it, or I do have it. So what are some tips that you can give as far as coping strategies for living with ADHD? Do you have anything that you can kind of take out of your toolbox to share with our mamas?
Yeah, that's a great question. First of all, get yourself diagnosed because there is nothing worse than not knowing what is wrong with you and feeling crazy. Even if people around you don't believe your diagnosis, you will believe your diagnosis and a doctor will. So, first of all, please get that done. Honestly, I know I say it all the time, but TikTok is an amazing space. If you go and you search ADHD in women on TikTok, that's one of the hashtags I use. There are so many people, and just knowing that you're not alone and learning new things about yourself every day can be really important. Another thing that is great is actually like eating properly. And I know this is really hard when you have ADHD because I have binge eating disorder because of my ADHD.
So we are going to try the last 5-10 minutes of this Zoom call using my handy dandy phone, and Claire's using hers as well. We just wanted to finish up our thoughts because there's just such good thoughts. We're talking about coping strategies, and Claire was just talking to us about eating the right foods.
Yes. When you do have ADHD, you're constantly searching for dopamine. So it's really important that you cut a lot of sugar out of your diet, not only for health reasons, but if you're constantly having sugar crashes, it's going to be really hard for you to like maintain a healthy balance within your system. So definitely eating the right foods is going to be something that really helps you maintain your normal rhythm. Another thing would be to exercise. So something that produces natural dopamine is actually exercise. So the more that you can go to the gym or even just get outside and move your body, it's going to be something that is really beneficial to you. And you're going to kind of get that high from working out instead of overeating or spending or doing impulsive things like gambling or drinking or drugs, like a lot of other people turn to when they have ADHD. Obviously, therapy is very good. So if you can get into talk therapy just to kind of like give you even more coping mechanisms. And another thing that really helps me is a very strict routine. So the more you can get yourself into a routine, the better your ADHD is going to be. And it does take a lot of work. But the more your body gets used to the routine, it's kind of like our toddlers. So the more you are able to establish something for yourself, the better your home is going to be. It's not going to be such a disaster, and the better you're going to feel because you're going to feel like you have your life more together. And it is really hard. One thing that I like to do are called timer tidies. So you give yourself, let's say, when you're very beginning, like just 5 minutes a night, and you do as much as you can in those 5 minutes. So say you're going to do the dishes. So every night before bed, you do the dishes. And then the next night or in a few weeks, once you get used to that routine, because I know it's really hard to force yourself to do these things, especially when you do have ADHD, because you get so overwhelmed. But then the next few weeks, you're going to go and add another task. So let's say you're going to do the dishes and then you're going to sweep the floors. And then you do that for 2 weeks. And then once you get used to that, you're going to add something else in. So the more routine you get, the better you're going to function as a human being. And then you can add in laundry because a lot of people with ADHD have huge laundry issues because we function on urgency. We only want to wash and dry those things and never put it away because why do you need to put it away? It's not urgent. So getting yourself into a really good routine, it does take a lot of work, but it helps immensely. So that's something I would suggest to everyone. And even to start with 10 or 5 minutes and then do that for a few weeks. And then once you're able to handle that and you're getting used to it, add in maybe 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. And then by the end of it, you're in like a 30-minute routine after your kids go to bed, or you can even involve your kids. And then your house is going to stay clean for the most part. And then it's going to become like your house is not going to become like a huge doom box. Maybe.
Okay. Well, this segues right into the wonderful and final thought. Talk to me about doom boxes, because you're the one who taught me what it was, but apparently it's a thing.
So a doom box is essentially when you have ADHD, everything is super overwhelming and you don't really have the time to put things away properly. So what we have are called doom boxes. So we just put all of those things into like a bag or a closet or a drawer or your car or your purse, and you just kind of forget about it. So instead of like a lot of people, I've seen this on TikTok, it's like, don't put it down, put it away. So a lot of times with ADHD, we just put things down and then we don't do anything about it. So we have these huge drawers, like drawers that just have all these random things that have no places, and they kind of take over our lives. Like my closet is a doom box, my garage is a doom box, my car's a doom box, my purse is a doom box, and it just gets overwhelming. And it's like, you kind of look like you have your life together on the outside, but if you opened any of my drawers, I don't have it all together.
I love that though, but do you kind of see doom boxes in a positive way as well? Is it possible to say, well, look, I could categorize this as a later thing. Like right now I want to focus on the kitchen, so I've got to bring things to a temporary spot. Or do you think it's actually exacerbating the overwhelm later?
Oh, that's really hard. Because I know, like in my mind, I know that I have these doom boxes I need to take care of, and it's frustrating for everyone else. Say, like my laundry pile, I know exactly what's in that laundry pile, or my purse, or my car, or the junk drawer. But then, say my husband comes along and he's like, "Hey, where's the stapler?" I'm like, "Oh, well, it's in." It's in the junk drawer, and it's underneath like all the different piles of stuff, and it's on the left-hand side.
So, but you knew it was on the left-hand side.
Right. So we know where it is, and it's functional for us, but it's not always functional for people that live with us. And I can totally understand how that would be frustrating. So while it works for me, it doesn't always work for the household. And a lot of times, like the laundry is the same way. Like I find putting away laundry way too difficult, and it's too overwhelming for me to go upstairs to my closet. So I like to keep it on like my dining room table. So that's kind of like a little doom box for me, like doom box of laundry. But it works for me because it's not an extra step of having to go upstairs to my closet, So it can be really functional for someone, but also it's really embarrassing. Like I don't ever want someone to look into my car and be like, what is this? Because it looks like hoarders. And a lot of people with ADHD will say that their purse or their car is like hoarders. It's not really positive. It's kind of funny, but I know where everything is, but it's frustrating. Because I'm like, why am I this way?
I kind of feel like the doom boxes are kind of, for what I'm imagining a doom box is a little bit like one of those, they call it like a mobile pile. So it's one of those things where it's like an ongoing, ever-changing, temporary spot that goes with us wherever our brain is leading us. So if today, right now, our focus is, let's say, the kitchen or something, and we're like, okay, well, I want to sort out the erasers and the whatever that has nothing to do with the kitchen, but I can't do that right now. So I'm going to put it all in this temporary box, and then at like 3:00, I'm going to deal with that later. But it'll still be in that temporary box. So maybe that's not what I'm envisioning. I'm kind of envisioning more of like a temporary box as opposed to a doom box, where a doom box has this, it's kind of like the room of shame or the drawer of shame. Yeah. And so maybe you're right, but like doom box is kind of in a different light. Do you also find in general another coping strategy would be to simplify everything? So maybe do a good big purge and making sure you only have what you need in your living space.
So when I was in quarantine, like, the original OG quarantine, that it was actually kind of fun because I'm an introvert. In like March 2020, I went through my house and I was really into minimalism. And I think everyone was with like Marie Kondo. Everyone was going through that. So what I did was I threw out or donated most of my stuff. So I only kept like 4 plates, 4 bowls, 4 cups, and because the dishes were getting to the point where they were so overwhelming, and I had to make it super simple in order for it to work. Another great thing is organization. I know it's really difficult, but if you do have ADHD, making sure your home is organized helps immensely. And honestly, having less stuff, as you said, will make it so much easier. But the thing with the doom boxes is it's overwhelming to look at them. But then like when you finally have the energy to go through and deal with them, like my closet or my junk drawer, it's like, go me. And then in like a month, it's the same way. But it's like its own little project, but it really is. It's embarrassing, but it's funny. But
this joke, this understanding between you and your family kind of thing, right? Like, and I have many of those. I have a garage sale doom room. Like everything is just like what I'm going to sell, but I just haven't gotten around to taking pictures and writing it down because it's not important enough to me right now, right?
No. Yeah, and we like have all these ideas of like, I'm going to do this with this and this with this, and like all of our projects that we tried 3 times and then got bored of it and then go to a different project. It's a lot. It's getting rid of stuff helps, but it's also like, what if I pick up that hobby again, you know?
Oh yeah, that is a lot of that creative thinking. So that's where our therapy and our medications will kick in. No, you don't need that. No, you don't need that. Right. I'm wondering if anyone would benefit from outsourcing. Maybe this is the time to consider joining or learning, downloading some sort of program on how to organize or hiring an organizer. A lot of people say, I can't afford a cleaner, like to have a regular cleaner come, but having some sort of budget for that if you feel super overwhelmed, or if you're able to do this or make it a thing, like you said, get the kids involved or have a reward system so that everybody's involved. It is a lot. The overwhelm can really lead into other mental health issues because it could lead into the addiction and the hoarding and the depression and the anxiety. So it sounds like such an unimportant, shallow thing to worry about, but your home should be where you feel the most comfortable. And I don't seem like it, but I've called myself an extroverted introvert. I have just discovered in the pandemic, I think you're the same way. You're extroverted in the sense that you're outgoing and you got this great personality and talkative and all that fun stuff. But at the end of the day, you love home base. You love the safety. Yeah, that's like me, the intimacy of a one-on-one conversation, So the pandemic has been good for that. And it's been kind of a blessing in that sense. But anyhow, I am so grateful to you, Claire. I've taken enough of your time. This has gone a lot longer, but if you think about it, 2 ADHD mamas having a conversation, that's success right there.
Right. And I just want to say one last thing about
yes, please.
Your home. If you don't think it's important, your home is a direct reflection of your mental health. So please make sure, even just take it like hour by hour or room by room. But if you get your room and your home, even like your bedroom sorted out, don't feel bad if it's a mess. But, you owe it to yourself. It's not just a space. It's your home, right? So this is where you live.
It's your sanctuary, right? It's your safe place.
It's your temple. This is where you spend all your time. So, we spend all our time up here, but it also reflects our home. So
100%.
It's important.
I love that. Thank you for that final thought. Claire, can you tell our listeners where to find you, your handle?
Sure. So on Instagram, I'm Claire Bowman. You can just search me under my name. It makes it easy to find. And then on TikTok, it's the exact same. So it's Claire Bowman __ for both of those. And I also do run my own mug business. It's called Mug Mama Customs. If you want to check that out, I usually only run around seasonal times just because I'm so busy, but it's something I love. Again, ADHD life. I do it when I have time or motivation. But those are just my main spaces. I don't really have a blog because I just can't keep up with it. Oh, and I also have a podcast. You can find that all in my link tree, which is in my bio. In my TikTok and my Instagram. And I'm excited to have you on my podcast.
I can too. So,
yeah. Why don't you block out 5 hours? Because apparently Zoom hates us.
Right. My husband's like, what are you doing?
What is happening? George is like, did you just find your soulmate? Because you're spending way more time with her than you are with me.
Right.
I think
did we just become best friends? Yep.
Yeah.
I love this for us.
I love this. This has been so great. I'm sorry to you and to our listeners that it had to come down to this, but luckily it was only the last few minutes. I hope all our listeners got a huge dose of this wonderful woman that I have had the pleasure of getting to know. But also, I will put all your links in my show notes. And this is not the end of Claire Bowman. Okay, she's gonna be on Sass and Smalls all around. Let's just keep this conversation going. Anyone who feels the need to reach out for me and then also for Claire, our DMs are open. Reach out and interact. You're not alone.
I always answer my DMs. Sometimes they go into my other folder, but I make it a point to not be the influencer that does not answer. So especially with mental health. So just send me a DM, interact with my stuff, and I will be there. Hopefully.
Yes. Claire, thank you so much for being on here. You love on those beautiful children, that husband of yours, and tell them I'm sorry for stealing you for so long, but I just feel so lucky.
Oh, and I feel so blessed to be here. So thank you.
All right. Thanks for making me cry, Claire.
Oh, anytime.
All right. So you take care, and I will be seeing you online.
Sounds good.
Take care. Bye.
I need my SASS back.
Signing off. See ya, guys. Bye.
Signing off. See ya. Bye.